Welcome to part 2 of the Mitutoyo Digital Quill. Hey guys, so in part 1 we made this aluminum bracket here that'll attach to the side of the head, and the digital reader will sit here. We CNC routed this on the Certiflat CNC, and I have a machine surface here and a head casting side here. It's not a flat surface, not true or parallel with this machine surface. So I'm going to try to reverse mold that onto the bracket here using some Devcon Plastic Steel Putty, and I will also be making the back of the reader mount that attaches to the quill. Here we go. Okay guys, so sorry I had gloves on and I didn't want to try to mess with other camera angles and stuff like that, but what I did was sitting over at the bench, I mixed up 2.5 parts of the Devcon steel putty to 1 part hardener, and I took the bracket, I had scarified the back of the bracket where I want the Devcon to stick to, and then put a rubber O-ring in there to kind of hold it in a circular pattern, and dabbled Devcon in around the hole in the top bracket. I had rubbed Vaseline on the side of the head here and the screw. Hopefully that's going to release. I don't know for sure if it will or not, but I'm hoping it does. And my Devcon is pretty old. I want to say I've had it for like 5 years, but it was like all settled and pretty damn hard. I played with it quite a bit in the heat until I could get it somewhat pliable to mix up a batch. So we'll check this back in a day and see if it hardens up, and try to pop it back off there. Hopefully it works. So initially I think I was kind of overthinking a little bit. I was going to take my vise off and put my surface plate on the table and lay the head over 90 degrees so I could pour epoxy in there and make sure everything was all indicated in perfectly. And after a while I kind of thought about it, and I decided it really doesn't need to be that critical. I could just square it up and epoxy it, and it should be good. I put this screw in there so it would offset this from the head the right depth, so this was square, and when I tighten this it wouldn't, cant in or anything like that. So the Vaseline seemed to have worked on the threads. I actually did get a little bit of a not JB weld, but Devcon on this screw. A little bit on the end of the screw there. Here we go. Well, put a little bit of paint off right there, and you can see the waves of the Vaseline release agent. So I'll go ahead and mill this off clean and around this radius here. But that looks like exactly what we're looking for. Okay, didn't get it anywhere we didn't want it. I can see some Devcon in that hole there, but that should be fairly easy to get out because there's a decent sized hole here, and that should be nice and free in there. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're good. Might just get some pliers and try to break that little piece off right there. Oh, I'm pretty happy with that. Well, unfortunately, it didn't stick to the bracket as I had hoped, but I think that's all right. I think we can still use it as is, and if I have to super glue it to the bracket or whatever, but now that it's out of the off the bracket, I can actually clean it up a lot easier. So okay, so when I was super gluing it on, I messed up, and I'm gonna do it all over again. Cleaned up the Devcon out of that hole with a reamer. I'm gonna, anything exposed from the bracket here is gonna get removed, and around the O-ring groove down here, but it's mounted, and I'm really impressed at how solid that is. So I decided I didn't want to do any milling on it after seeing what the Scotch-Brite wheel does to it, and not having any way covers on the mill. I just didn't want to get those abrasives on there, but it makes a good polishing compound for the Scotch-Brite wheel. So having that hole there at an angle, and then this piece right here actually isn't true square with the x-axis. I didn't really have too many options here. What I had first came up with was a 3D printed part that would go around the this piece on the quill here, but I had forgot about the thumb wheel rollers for the quill stop. And it was also too wide, so I printed another one that was narrower, and then it utilizes a magnet to stay attached to the quill piece. So we'll go ahead and make a piece like this out of aluminum. So this is the piece of stock I found. That hole actually will be utilized. That one will be milled off below the surface, and there'll be two new holes down here. There is that hole, however, but that'll be on the back side. So I might even mill out a pocket within that just to lighten this bracket up a little bit. I don't know what happened to the camera there, but I'm using a wood router bit to round those corners.
something I forgot about is I need to recess the screw heads for this so they don't interfere with the quill stop. So I'm going to just use a 3/16 end mill on that.
Okay guys, well there it is all installed. It's unfortunate that I had to do the Devcon twice, but it came out better the second time. So I did put insulating tape on the back of the reader head, but I didn't put it on the clamps itself. And you know, initially I thought the bracket itself was kind of ugly, but once I added this chunk of aluminum here for the reader head, I think it kind of draws the eyes off that, and it makes it look a little bit better. I could probably tram my head with it in place, but if I was to adjust the head at any angle, I'd probably pop it off, and which I could just undo the 2 screws, and since the reader head's attached with a magnet, I can just remove that, adjust the head to the angle I want, and then replace it, and it's not too big of a deal. So with that, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.